This morning, the Princess of Wales back on the global stage. Kate's first international trip since her cancer recovery, stepping out on her own, a research trip of sorts, learning about a cause she cares deeply about.
Thousands of people have packed the square. People are hanging out the windows, and you can see her right here, meeting some of her littlest fans.
William expected the locked Windsor chamber to contain nothing more dangerous than forgotten furniture and sealed royal records. Instead, he found a broken security clasp, an empty envelope bearing Diana's handwriting, and a protection file created for his own children lying open on the table. Catherine saw his face change before he spoke. Someone had entered the room, removed selected pages, and left behind a warning that felt terrifyingly personal. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William returned to Windsor Castle with Catherine after a senior archivist reported that a restricted chamber was unsecured. An archivist is the person responsible for preserving historic records, yet even he could not enter this room. Queen Elizabeth II had sealed it during her final year, and no one could cross the threshold without written authority from the sovereign. Catherine stepped closer as the prince opened the protection dossier created for George, Charlotte, and Louis. A dossier is a file containing sensitive records, and this one had been kept apart from the Royal Archives, the institution preserving the monarchy's papers. 3 pages were gone. So was a handwritten letter from Diana, stored inside an envelope addressed to her eldest son. William lifted that empty envelope with trembling fingers. He said nothing, and his silence frightened Catherine more than anger could. Someone had not merely disturbed palace property. Someone had reached into his grief, touched his mother's words, and taken information concerning his children. Catherine watched him fight the urge to summon security. The future king wanted Windsor locked down, but he knew a response might warn the intruder. She placed one hand over the file and told him they would face this together. He looked at her, breathing, then forced himself to remain still. A brass security seal lay beneath the table, far from the door. William noticed it first. The lock had not been smashed from outside. It had been opened by someone who understood the chamber and knew what to remove. Catherine turned the final page and found a handwritten warning. If opened without Anne present, assume the threat has returned. Her voice tightened as she read it aloud. The discovery was no longer a theft. It was the return of something Queen Elizabeth had feared. William closed the folder, slipped Diana's empty envelope inside his coat, and told Catherine there was only one person they could contact before the palace machinery began moving Princess Anne. But when Anne heard those words, her silence revealed that she already knew what they had found, and why someone wanted it hidden. Princess Anne does not ask whether the chamber was disturbed, she asks which pages are missing. That single question changes the atmosphere completely. William realizes his aunt has been expecting this possibility for years, while Catherine understands that the danger surrounding their children did not begin that night. It had been anticipated, documented, and deliberately concealed by the late Queen from almost everyone inside the monarchy, including the family it was designed to protect. William answers slowly, forcing each missing item into words. 3 pages from the protection dossier. 1 handwritten letter from Diana. The prince is not only the future king in that moment. He is a son confronting another fragment of his mother's private life, a fragment someone has chosen to steal. He has spent years controlling that grief, while raising George, Charlotte, and Louis under constant scrutiny. But the empty envelope tears through that control. Catherine listens for any change in Anne's breathing. Her concern is not the palace, the headlines, or the damage to royal authority. She wants to know whether her children have been watched, discussed, or used as leverage inside a hidden struggle over the future reign. When she says their names, Anne's voice becomes sharp. "Tell no one," the Princess Royal says during the private call. The title identifies the monarch's eldest daughter and carries no power equal to the sovereign. Yet her authority now feels absolute. She orders them not to contact aides, security officers, or Charles before she reaches Windsor. William stiffens. He wants every gate closed and every access record seized. Waiting makes him feel powerless inside the home he may one day inherit. Catherine places her hand over the open dossier and reminds him that Anne is not speaking from suspicion. She is speaking from fear. That fear finally breaks through. Anne confirms that Queen Elizabeth created the file after becoming convinced that private details about William's household were circulating among people seeking influence over his future reign. A protection dossier is a confidential collection of warnings and instructions, and this one was designed to keep the Wales family beyond the reach of palace pressure. Anne still refuses to explain Diana's missing letter. Instead, she asks whether the envelope's inner lining has been cut. William looks down and sees the narrow incision. His aunt knows the object too precisely. She has held it before. After the call, Catherine finds him alone, staring at the empty envelope. He admits that he cannot decide what frightens him more, that his mother wrote a warning, or that someone believed it powerful enough to steal. Anne arrives after dark without an equerry, a royal aide who normally accompanies senior family members. She carries an old leather dispatch case and asks to see the chamber before speaking. What she brings will reveal that the room was not merely forgotten. It was chosen after one confrontation shattered the late Queen's trust. The fear began years earlier during a private christening rehearsal at Windsor, when a confidential seating plan containing the children's security movements appeared in the hands of someone who had never been authorized to see it. Queen Elizabeth did not create a public scandal. She did something far more revealing. She dismissed the room, summoned Anne alone, and ordered every sensitive record concerning William's family removed from the ordinary palace system before sunrise. Anne remembers the moment clearly because her mother had survived decades of rivalry, jealousy, and competition without losing control. The monarch understood that royal life attracted ambition. What she could not accept was private family information being used to influence future constitutional decisions, choices affecting who holds power and how the crown passes from one reign to the next. The decisive breach came during a closed christening rehearsal for Louis. A christening is the formal religious ceremony welcoming a child into the Christian faith, but this rehearsal carried another purpose: coordinating family movements and security. Inside an unauthorized briefing folder, staff discovered a duplicate schedule listing George and Charlotte's entrances, waiting rooms, and protection handovers. Queen Elizabeth questioned senior officials one by one. Each answer sounded careful. Each denial avoided responsibility. Anne watched her mother's anger slowly collapse into something more painful. Someone had not broken through the palace walls. Someone already inside the system had used trusted access against the family. William hears this in silence. His grandmother had concealed the breach to preserve his peace, yet that protection now feels dangerously close to betrayal. Catherine feels the same wound from another direction. The late Queen had tried to shield their household, but she had also denied them the knowledge they needed to protect their own children. Anne explains that the dossier was assembled outside normal palace channels. It held security concerns, private observations, letters, and instructions designed to defend William's family during a future transfer of power. Diana's letter was included because it described the methods that could be used against her son: guilt, isolation, pressure through duty, and warnings that personal resistance might endanger public stability. Then Anne reveals what the missing pages contained. Queen Elizabeth had written a list of the only people permitted to reach George, Charlotte, and Louis during a constitutional emergency. Whoever removed those pages now possessed the monarchy's most sensitive family safeguards. Anne opens her leather dispatch case and removes a sealed duplicate inventory. She compares it with the damaged file, then stops. One more item is missing: a handwritten memorandum explaining what should happen if William lost confidence in the reigning sovereign. That document places Charles at the center of everything. By morning, William is no longer deciding whether the king should be told. He is preparing to ask whether his father knew the chamber existed, and whether he authorized someone to enter it. Charles enters the private Windsor sitting room expecting a family briefing. Instead, he finds William standing beside an open security file, Catherine seated in silence, and Anne guarding the door herself. No aides are present. No recording secretary has been summoned. William places the broken brass seal on the table and asks his father one direct question: "Did you give anyone permission to open the Queen's chamber?" Charles does not answer immediately. Anne has removed every telephone and secured the doors because she refuses to let palace officials shape the truth before the family understands it. A recording secretary is the official who preserves the formal account of an important meeting, but no account will exist today. Only 4 people will hear what is said, and none of them can hide behind procedure. William explains that the missing memorandum concerns emergency confidence between sovereign and heir, the bond of trust that allows a reigning monarch and the next king to act together during a crisis. In the wrong hands, that document could become leverage against them both. Then he mentions Diana's letter. Charles flinches. The prince sees the movement and feels suspicion rise faster than reason. He asks whether his father knew the letter existed. The king begins answering, but William speaks over him, years of buried hurt breaking through his control. Charles responds sharply, and the distance between monarch and heir suddenly feels more dangerous than the stolen papers. Catherine ends it. She reminds them that George, Charlotte, and Louis are at the center of the breach. This is not the moment to reopen every wound between Charles and Diana. It is about whether someone has obtained private instructions concerning the children. Her calm words leave both men silent, because neither can deny what matters most. Charles reaches toward the dossier. William places one hand over it and stops him. The gesture is small, but its meaning is enormous. The future king is no longer willing to surrender sensitive information simply because the monarch asks. Charles denies authorizing anyone to enter the chamber. He then admits that months earlier, someone warned him that a sealed room at Windsor contained documents capable of damaging family unity. He chose not to ask what they were. Anne presses him for the name. The king refuses at first, insisting that the truth could destabilize his household. William answers that stability has already been destroyed. Unless Charles speaks, he will begin an independent review and remove his children from every Windsor engagement. That threat changes everything. Faced with an open rupture, Charles finally identifies the person who warned him, someone with access to his private correspondence and Windsor's restricted keys. The name proves nothing yet, but it exposes an influence powerful enough to reach the king and forces the family to decide who will control what happens next. The individual named by Charles is not a dramatic outsider or an obvious enemy. It is a senior household official whose authority depends on remaining unnoticed. He controls schedules, private papers, room access, and the flow of information between royal residences. For years, he has stood close enough to power to influence decisions without appearing to make them. Now, one missing key record suggests that the monarchy's greatest vulnerability may be the machinery that protects it. Anne explains why the name matters. The keeper of the private papers is a senior official responsible for organizing confidential correspondence and deciding which documents reach the sovereign. The position attracts little public attention, yet it offers extraordinary control over what the monarch sees, what remains hidden, and which warnings arrive too late. Queen Elizabeth had deliberately kept that office away from the Windsor dossier. The late monarch feared that normal palace procedure had become too porous, allowing sensitive information to pass through too many trusted hands. She created the sealed chamber outside institutional memory so that no ordinary record would reveal what it contained. Charles absorbs the implication in silence. Someone inside his own household may have controlled not only the papers reaching him, but the boundaries of his knowledge. He removes his glasses and places them beside the broken seal, a quiet admission that his authority has been bypassed. William watches his father carefully. He fears the king will try to contain the scandal, protect the household, and preserve the appearance of order. Catherine understands the danger immediately. Containment could become concealment, leaving George, Charlotte, and Louis exposed, while the palace congratulated itself for avoiding embarrassment. Anne speaks to Charles privately but without softness. Protecting the crown, she tells him, does not mean protecting every person who serves it. The monarch looks at his sister with visible pain because her words carry a brutal demand. Loyalty now requires him to expose someone he trusted. The first records deepen the threat. The official entered Windsor's restricted corridor 3 nights before the discovery, claiming he was inspecting water damage. No maintenance request exists. No engineer was called. No report was filed. A second entry is worse. The same man met privately with an unnamed member of the extended royal household hours later. The appointment appeared in the diary, then vanished electronically. Charles finally reaches for a pen. He signs a temporary suspension order and places it before Anne, giving her authority to secure every record while William's private secretary begins tracing the deleted meeting. The recovered entry contains no full name, only 2 initials remain. Catherine recognizes them instantly. They belong to someone who recently requested unusual access to her children's ceremonial plans. But before the family can confront that person, news of the suspension escapes Windsor, turning a secret investigation into a public crisis and forcing every hidden loyalty into the open. The leak reaches London before the suspended official has even left Windsor. By midday, senior aides are receiving calls about an unexplained security review, cancelled engagements, and tension between the King and the Prince of Wales. Inside the castle, doors close, telephones ring, and familiar voices suddenly become cautious. Catherine realizes the breach has created a second danger. Whoever removed the documents now knows the family is searching for them. William moves first. He temporarily withdraws George, Charlotte, and Louis from every non-essential Windsor appearance, allowing staff to describe the decision as a scheduling adjustment. No one believes that explanation. The Wales household has lost confidence in the access system surrounding the children, and the future king will not gamble with their safety to preserve royal routine. Charles answers with a wider order. He demands an audit of restricted keys, archive permissions, deleted diary entries, and staff movements. An audit is a formal examination of records designed to expose errors or misuse, but this one threatens far more than administrative embarrassment. It could damage senior offices, end careers, and reveal how deeply private influence has entered palace life. Catherine receives the next blow personally. One of Charlotte's rehearsal schedules had been requested under the same initials found in the deleted appointment. She grips the edge of her desk and asks whether access was granted. The reply comes carefully, partially. That single word leaves her shaken. Someone may already know where her daughter was expected to wait, who would accompany her, and when protection teams would change. Catherine does not shout. Her fear settles into something colder. William is less restrained. He learns that routine family movements continued circulating even after the Windsor discovery, and his anger breaks through. He accuses palace officials of valuing convenience over the safety of his children. The institution built to protect the monarchy, he says, has begun protecting itself instead. Charles watches the suspended official leave through a private entrance. The king says nothing. He takes the man's access card from a tray and snaps it in half, a rare burst of fury from someone who normally hides emotion behind procedure. Then investigators recover fragments of a shredded note. Once reconstructed, the sentence reads, "The letter must not reach W before the transition." Anne understands immediately. With W means William. Diana's letter was not taken for sentimental value. Someone feared it would influence how he behaved when power passed from father to son. The initials lead to a member of the extended household, but that person denies everything and claims their identity was used to build a false trail. Accusations begin collapsing into confusion. William has heard enough. He asks Anne to meet him alone inside the chamber, where the discovery began. There, without Charles, Catherine, lawyers, or palace officials, she will finally tell him what Diana wrote and why Queen Elizabeth believed he would one day need those words. Anne closes the chamber door and places the duplicate inventory between them, but William no longer cares about keys, officials, or deleted appointments. He wants the truth about his mother. For the first time that night, the Princess Royal allows her composure to soften. She tells him Diana's letter was not an attack on Charles, a secret accusation, or a weapon against the crown. It was a warning about what fear could make William become. Anne explains that Diana wrote the message during a period when she believed her eldest son might one day be forced to choose between family loyalty and his own moral judgment. The letter was entrusted privately and preserved after her death, not because it contained scandal, but because it spoke to a danger no security officer could prevent. Queen Elizabeth later placed it inside the protection dossier. A dossier is a confidential file containing sensitive records, and the monarch believed William would need that guidance during a future transfer of power. She feared palace advisors might isolate him from Catherine, pressure him through his children, or convince him that obedience was the only path to stability. William's grief hardens into anger. He asks why the letter was hidden from him for so long. Anne does not defend the decision. She admits that secrecy created in the name of protection can become another form of harm. Her answer does not erase the betrayal, but it removes the excuse. Then William asks about Charles. Anne tells him the king knew that a private message existed, but he never knew its contents. Suspicion begins to loosen its grip on the prince, replaced by something sadder. His family has spent years reacting to missing information, guarded conversations, and truths delivered too late. No aides interrupt them. No palace official controls the words. Anne recites the line she remembers most clearly. Diana urged her son never to confuse obedience with duty, and never to protect an institution by abandoning the people he loved. The missing memorandum from Queen Elizabeth carried the same warning. It instructed William to trust his conscience, consult Catherine, and reject any transition arrangement that placed family unity at risk. The late Queen had not been preparing him to challenge his father. She had been preparing him to resist manipulation. William finally understands the purpose of the theft. Someone wanted him isolated, suspicious, and emotionally divided, before power passed from Charles to him. He removes the empty envelope from his coat and places it inside the dossier. The missing letter, he tells Anne, will no longer control him through its absence. He already understands what his mother wanted him to remember. William leaves the chamber without the file and without advisors. He goes to meet his father alone, carrying only a decision. The investigation began with a broken seal, but its decisive moment will come between a king, afraid of losing authority, and a son determined not to lose his family. By the following morning, the private crisis has become the only story Britain wants to discuss. Broadcasters speak of a Windsor security breach, newspapers predict a confrontation between king and heir, and crowds begin gathering outside the castle gates. Then one image changes the entire narrative. Charles and William leave St. George's Chapel together, walking side by side, while Catherine and Anne follow only a few steps behind. The palace confirms that restricted documents were taken, but refuses to identify them. Its statement stresses cooperation between the king, the Prince of Wales, and the Princess Royal. The title refers to the monarch's eldest daughter, yet Anne's role now reaches far beyond ceremony. She has become the guardian of an investigation capable of exposing the weaknesses hidden inside the royal household. Public opinion divides instantly. Some demand every detail, arguing that secrecy created the crisis. Others fear that releasing Diana's letter would deepen wounds that have never fully healed. One newspaper captures the public mood before sunrise. Its front page shows the broken Windsor seal beneath a single question: who entered the Queen's secret room? Copies appear across London, turning a private family violation into a national mystery. Several hundred people gather near Henry Gates Gate, one of Windsor Castle's main public entrances. When Charles and William emerge after their private meeting inside St. George's Chapel, the crowd falls silent. The chapel is the royal church within Windsor, used for worship, ceremonies, and family gatherings. Father and son walk together without speaking publicly. Then a restrained wave of applause begins. Catherine feels relief, but not safety. The missing pages remain outside their control, and unity cannot replace protection. She stays close to William, knowing that whoever stole the papers may still possess details involving George, Charlotte, and Louis. Anne pauses before leaving. She feels no triumph. Her mother tried to contain the danger through secrecy, and exposing that failure has become the only way to defend what the late Queen wanted protected. Then the suspended official breaks his silence during a recorded internal interview. He admits opening the chamber but denies keeping the documents. An unnamed intermediary, he says, promised they would be destroyed before William could read them. Security footage provides the answer. A former household advisor, pushed aside after the succession, used a private service passage to collect the stolen file. Investigators trace him to a locked London office and recover Diana's letter, the missing pages, and Queen Elizabeth's memorandum before any material can be copied or released. The mystery is solved, but the deeper choice remains. Charles, William, Catherine, and Anne must now decide whether to bury the scandal or let it change how royal power operates. Their decision will determine whether Windsor's secret chamber remains a symbol of fear or becomes the place where the monarchy finally abandons secrecy as its first instinct. The recovered letter is returned to William unopened. He does not read it alone. Catherine sits beside him. Charles remains across the table, and Anne stands near the door she once guarded for Queen Elizabeth. The divided family chooses to face the truth together. What follows is not an abdication, a punishment, or a royal spectacle. It is something rarer inside Windsor, an honest reckoning. William listens as the former advisor's recorded confession is read aloud. He admits taking the papers to block a transition challenge, reduce Catherine's influence, and hand greater control to palace officials. A transition plan is the arrangement guiding power from one reign to the next, and this one was designed to weaken the partnership keeping William steady. Charles turns to the suspended keeper of the private papers, the official responsible for confidential correspondence. He accepts responsibility for opening the chamber, claiming he acted to preserve stability. The king rejects the excuse and dismisses him permanently. No servant of the crown, he says, will ever again override the family while pretending to protect it. William opens Diana's letter with Catherine beside him. His mother does not urge rebellion. She asks him to remain compassionate, shield his children from inherited fear, and trust the woman who knows him beyond rank and duty. Catherine takes his hand, and the prince lets the words settle. Charles admits his own failure. His instinct to avoid confrontation allowed too many decisions to grow in darkness. He apologizes to William and Catherine for allowing secrecy to damage their trust. The monarch places Queen Elizabeth's memorandum before his son and pushes it across the table without conditions. He will no longer withhold truth simply because it is uncomfortable. Anne accepts responsibility for supervising the reforms. Sensitive records involving royal children will now require joint approval from the sovereign and their parents, ending the informal access system that gave courtiers unchecked control. Catherine gains a permanent voice in every decision affecting her children and future household. William reseals the restored dossier, but he does not return it to the hidden chamber. He places it inside a jointly controlled archive and takes Diana's letter with him. The discovery proved that secrecy had been used to manipulate the future king, yet the attempt failed because he refused to let suspicion divide him from Catherine, Anne, or Charles. The disturbing discovery did not destroy the monarchy. It forced the people at its center to choose one another over the machinery surrounding them, and in doing so, they protected the crown by refusing to be ruled by its secrets. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.